Well, CIBC announced this week it would be cutting some 130 positions, and they will outsource that work to India. But adding insult to injury, it's forcing those employees who are losing their jobs to help with the training of their replacements. Chris Justice is an employment lawyer with Samfiru Tumarkin, and he joins me now. Chris, nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jeff.
All right, is this even legal? Can a company force you to actually train your replacements?
It's a good question. There is something called a constructive dismissal in law, where if there is a significant change to the terms of an employee's employment, a change that they don't necessarily agree to, that could constitute what is known as a constructive dismissal, and in fact offer that employee an opportunity to leave the employment relationship early and able to get some recourse.
All right, so CIBC, do they have standing here? Do they have ground? Like, can they make this part of perhaps your severance? Can they withhold a severance package if you don't abide by these terms, which might include training your replacement?
Well, not necessarily, because if an employee is in fact successful in asserting constructive dismissal, that could afford them the opportunity to forego having to work for the company any longer and in fact receive severance pay immediately.
All right, so these employees that find themselves in this precarious position right now, they don't necessarily have to go through with this then?
Well, they may have options, and I would certainly recommend that any employee who's considering what to do in this case definitely seek legal counsel, because there may be an opportunity, as I said, for them to claim a constructive dismissal claim and get some compensation and not have to work for the remainder of the period, for example, training their eventual replacements.
Is this happening more and more? It seems like it is, that this story keeps popping up time and again in the news, that a company is letting go of employees, outsourcing the work somewhere else because of labor costs. And by the way, on the way out the door, could you just make sure that these people know your job?
Yeah, I agree with you. I've seen actually this story crop up a number of times. I suppose the question becomes whether or not it's wise for the employer to do this. I mean, first of all, it creates a bad work environment. I mean, these employees who are essentially being terminated in the near future and being told to train their replacements are likely going to be less motivated, less productive, and I think on the whole, the work environment itself is going to become much more toxic.
Okay, let's talk about that just briefly here, focus on that, because that occurred to me as well. Why are companies even doing this? Because chances are, if you're on your way out, you aren't exactly motivated to do your best, particularly when it comes to training somebody who's about to take your job.
Exactly. That's a good question. Why are they doing this? I think obviously they're trying to do something that's maybe convenient. I mean, obviously these people know how to do their jobs, and I guess one potential solution from the company's perspective is to get these people to train these people before they leave. But for the very issues that you mentioned, I don't think it's necessarily a wise move for a company to do, and could even result in further ramifications. For example, these employees going off on medical leave due to stress, anxiety, which can then just wreak further havoc on the workplace.
All right, we will watch this as it moves along with interest. Employment lawyer Chris Justice. Chris, appreciate the time this morning.
Thanks again for having me.